He thought kindness was weakness. She thought nobody saw her. The day a hungry waitress knelt to feed a forgotten beggar outside a rich man's restaurant, Heaven quietly picked up a pen and changed all their stories forever. Sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and watch how one plate of leftover food shook a whole company, exposed hidden wickedness, and turned a poor girl into a billionaire's bride. Emily was 22, slim and beautiful, with eyes that still carried hope even when her stomach was empty. Every morning, she left the small one-room apartment she shared with her younger sister Lily and walked to the bus stop with a worn tote bag that held a small lunch, 2 pieces of bread and a boiled egg. She worked at the Grand Oak, a luxury restaurant that served fine steaks and wines. The pay was small, the work was hard, but Emily was grateful because it kept Lily in school and kept their landlord quiet for 1 more month. By the road near the restaurant entrance, an old man sat every day. His shirt was faded, his trousers were washed until the color almost disappeared. His shoes were broken. His skin was wrinkled. People called him Papa Thomas, though nobody knew his real name. Some children laughed when he coughed. Some adults hissed and turned away. It was said he had no family. One Tuesday morning, Emily's bus broke down on the way. The conductor banged the side of the Danfo and shouted, but the engine refused to answer. People started to grumble and jump down. Emily sighed, adjusted her bag, and began to walk. The sun was hot early. Her stomach was already singing. When she finally reached the restaurant, sweat clung to her back. At the back kitchen door, one of the chefs was scraping stew from a large pot. The smell alone was enough to make her knees feel weak. Emily stopped, swallowing her pride. "Please," she said. Her voice shook. "Can I have the leftover? I will clean the extra pans." The chef looked at her from head to toe, then turned his eyes toward the road where Papa Thomas sat quietly on his crate, watching. "You want it for yourself?" the chef asked. "No, for him," Emily said, pointing. "He looks weak." The chef scoffed. "You people and your stories." But he pushed a plastic container with leftover stew and bread across the table. It was the burnt part at the bottom of the pot, the part most rich customers reject. To Emily, it looked like a feast. Some waiters nearby started laughing. "See fine girl begging for scraps," one shouted. "Give your number to the old man too," another whistled. Emily's face burned, but she did not answer. She carried the container carefully, like carrying a baby. She knelt beside Papa Thomas and smiled. "Good morning, sir. Please eat." The old man stared deeply into Emily's eyes, seeing something steady there. "What is your name?" he asked, voice thin but clear. "Emily." The old man nodded. "A good name. May the earth remember it." Emily wiped the plastic spoon with a tissue and started feeding him, spoon by spoon. People passed and stared. Some shook their heads. Some laughed quietly. Emily didn't stop. She fanned the old man with a folded newspaper. She cleaned the corners of his mouth with the last tissue in her bag. When he finished, he touched Emily's hand. "Child, kindness is a seed. The wind can't blow it away if you bury it deep." Emily hurried to work, late and tired, but her heart felt light. She did not know that Papa Thomas had once worn fine suits instead of a faded shirt, and his shoes were once imported leather, not broken rubber. She did not know this street man was the grandfather of the billionaire who owned the Grand Oak. She did not know he was disguised to find a wife for his grandson, who had been lonely since his parents' fatal accident. She did not know the same grandson would soon stand over her file, judge her without mercy, and think all women were exactly the same. But that was for later. For now, a small kindness had entered the ground. The earth heard it, the sky heard it, and the story began to move. Inside the Grand Oak, the floor was busy. Coffee machines hummed. Plates of food moved like small hills in the hands of waiters. The smell of grilled meat, spices, and expensive perfume filled the air. Mr. Thompson, the floor supervisor, frowned when he saw Emily. "Late again?" Emily bowed her head. "I'm sorry, sir, the bus." "Save it," he snapped. "Every day there's a story. Go and set table 3. "As you said, sir," she replied quietly. As she moved to her station, her co-workers, Sarah and Chloe, exchanged looks. Sarah was stylish, with long nails and a new hairstyle almost every week. Chloe followed her like a shadow. They liked to stand where people could see them. Sarah had seen Emily that morning near the back door, begging for leftover food. During break, Sarah leaned back on a chair and spoke loudly so others would hear. "Not everyone who acts kind is clean," she said. "Some people just want to form a saint in front of people." Chloe laughed. "True. And some people beg for leftovers to create pity." Emily heard but kept quiet. She ate one slice of bread and saved the egg. When the dinner rush began, she returned to her station and worked with all her strength. Even in the noise, she heard the echo of the old man's words. A seed, a fire, something worth protecting. When closing time came, clouds gathered. The wind picked up dust. Emily hurried back to the roadside spot with the egg in her bag. Papa Thomas was still there, fighting a cough, bent like a branch in strong wind. "Take, sir," Emily said, pressing the egg into his palm. "Tomorrow I will bring warm soup." The old man nodded. His eyes were wet. "Go home before the rain, child," he said. As Emily walked away, the first drops of rain began to fall. On another street, a black SUV rolled to a stop outside the Grand Oak head office. A tall man with a hard face stepped out, checked his watch, and looked at the building for a long moment. His name was Henry. He had come to set things in order because the accident that took his parents had taught him that softness is weakness, and that people only smile when they want to take something from you. He did not know that the girl who had just placed an egg in an old man's hand would soon challenge everything he believed. Henry entered the conference room like a moving shadow. He wore a clean white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, and a wristwatch that cost more than some people's yearly rent. The manager stood as he walked in. "Good morning, sir," said Mrs. Miller, the HR manager. "Welcome back, sir." Henry nodded once and sat. "Let's be clear," he said. "Our numbers are falling. There are leaks everywhere. Too many favors, too much softness. From today we do things tight. No excuses." They went through files, reports, and staff lists. When Mr. Thompson's unit came up, Henry noticed a note beside one name. "Emily, often late but hard-working, supports younger sister." He frowned. "Late is late," he said. "If the shift starts at 8, be here by 8. I don't care about stories." Mrs. Miller tried to speak softly. "Sir, some of the staff travel far. Buses break down. You know how this city is." "Then they should leave earlier," Henry replied. After the meeting, Henry walked through the restaurant floor. Workers stiffened when he passed. He stopped at table 3. Emily was polishing glasses, moving fast and carefully, folding napkins, checking settings. Sweat gathered at her hairline. Her back ached from standing. She did not see him at first. When she finally looked up, her heart jumped. She wiped her hands on her apron and greeted quietly. "Good afternoon, sir." Henry's eyes were cold. He glanced at the clock. "You resumed at 8:20, he said. "Why?" Emily swallowed. "The bus, sir. I'm sorry." He nodded slowly. "One more time and you're out." He walked away. Sarah watched the exchange and smiled without warmth. "You see," she whispered to Chloe. "He doesn't like her already." At lunch, Emily slipped outside, ate half of her small bowl of rice and stew, and saved the rest in a flask. After work, she ran to the roadside spot before the rain returned. She met Papa Thomas coughing hard, bent over, hand on his chest. Emily knelt, rubbed his back, and waited for the cough to pass. "Sir, please drink," she begged, lifting the flask. "It's warm." The old man sipped slowly, closing his eyes. "Bless you, child." As they sat, a driver in a dark car slowed down, glanced at the pair, and drove off. He recognized the old man's eyes. He had seen those eyes in family pictures hung carefully in a quiet house. He drove faster. He would not tell, not yet. Emily reached home tired. Lily had warmed a small plate of rice. They ate together and talked about little things, school, a girl who borrowed a pencil and never returned it, the way their neighbor argued with her husband. Emily did not talk about mockery. She did not talk about the boss with cold eyes. She fell asleep quickly. But before sleep took her, she whispered, "God, please keep that old man, and please make me brave tomorrow." Far away, Henry stood in his apartment by the window, city lights touching his face. He remembered a different time, before the accident, before the world became hard. He remembered how love had failed in his own story. He poured himself water and drank with a clenched jaw. "People pretend," he told the empty room. "I won't fall for it again." But the story had already started bending his way. Morning brought trouble. Papa Thomas was not at the roadside. Emily's chest tightened. She ran to the nearby stalls. "Please, where is the old man who sits by the road?" she asked a newspaper seller. The man waved his hand. "Leave that matter. He fainted this early morning. Some boys carried him to one small clinic down the street." Emily's legs began to move before her mind caught up. At the clinic, the air smelled of disinfectant and sweat. A fan turned slowly on the ceiling. The nurse shook her head. "We admitted him. He needs tests. Who will pay?" Emily opened her purse. She had transport money and part of the rent she had been saving. Her hands shook. She counted some notes and gave them to the nurse. "Please start with this. I will find the rest." The nurse looked at the money and sighed. "It is not enough." Emily nodded and reached for her phone. There was no one to call. She had sold her small gold earrings to a neighbor last month when Lily's school needed money for PTA dues. There was nothing left to sell. Her eyes burned, but she did not cry. "Please let me stay with him," she said. They let her in. Papa Thomas lay on a thin mattress, wrapped in a threadbare blanket. His breathing was shallow, like waves pulling back. Emily sat by him and took his hand. "Sir, I am here," she whispered. The old man's eyes opened slowly. "Child," he said. "I will stay," she replied. Outside in the corridor, voices rose. Sarah had come to the clinic with a friend to buy medicine. When she saw Emily at the bedside, her mouth twisted. She took out her phone and snapped pictures, pretending she was just checking messages. "So this is where her lateness is coming from," she whispered to her friend. "She is playing nurse to a street man." Her friend laughed. "Maybe the man will leave her a mansion in his will." They giggled and left. Their laughter reached Emily's ears, and shame pricked her skin like needles. She pressed the old man's hand. "Don't mind them," she said softly. "You will be fine." By afternoon, Emily's phone rang. "Where are you?" Mr. Thompson asked. "At the clinic, sir. An old man. Save it. If you don't resume by tomorrow morning, don't come back." The call ended. Emily's throat tightened. She closed her eyes and prayed silently. When evening came, she walked to the bus stop to go home and borrow money from a neighbor for the rest of the bill. The clouds were heavy. Rain fell like a curtain. A black SUV stopped near the clinic gate. Henry stepped out, speaking to someone on the phone. His face was tight. He held the phone like he wanted to crush it. As he stood by the entrance to avoid the rain, he saw her again, the same girl from table 3, soaked to the skin, clutching a tote bag. She slipped, nearly fell, then caught herself and kept moving. He frowned. What is she doing here? He thought. He turned to leave but hesitated. Something in her face, the stubborn kindness, the way she held her fear like a cup and didn't spill it, made him pause. He did not know his own grandfather lay inside, a man who had once held his cheek and prayed strong prayers over his head. He shook off the feeling and left. The rain kept falling, washing the road clean and dragging dirty water into the gutters. Emily reached home late. She explained small, borrowed money from a neighbor who liked to complain but still helped sometimes. "Return my money, oh?" the woman said, rolling her eyes. "I will, Ma," Emily answered. She returned to the clinic in the dark. The nurse accepted the small cash. "It will cover tonight," the nurse said. Emily nodded. She sat again by Papa Thomas, whispered a lullaby her mother used to sing when life was still soft, and kept watch until dawn. Henry was early at the Grand Oak the next morning. He called for stricter time checks and ordered the staff gate locked at 8 sharp. When Emily arrived, tired from the clinic vigil, the gate was already closed. She could feel the headache building behind her eyes. She begged the security man, "Please, just this morning. I had emergency." He shook his head. Ogre's new rule. I no fit. Emily stood by the fence, chest tight. She watched the clock on her small phone as minutes ran past her like water. A few workers pointed, whispering. Sarah took another secret picture and smiled to herself. At 8:30, Henry walked by with Mrs. Miller. He saw Emily outside and gestured to the guard. The gate opened. Emily hurried in, breathless. "Thank you, sir." Henry's face was blank. "CHR after your shift." All day, Emily worked like two people, pushing aside fear. During lunch, she rushed to the clinic, fed Papa Thomas a little soup, held his hand, and ran back before the break ended. She arrived at HR, shaking. Mrs. Miller's voice was gentle. "Emily, I know you are trying, but the new rule is strict. We will issue a warning letter. One more and it becomes termination." Emily nodded, tears burning her eyes. "Yes, Ma." When she came out, Henry was in the corridor, talking to a supplier. He watched her pass, face pale but steady. Something pinched in his chest. He pushed it away. At closing time, a cleaner spilled water near the stairs. She was an older woman with tired eyes and worn slippers. The bucket slipped from her hand and she almost fell with it. Sarah and Chloe laughed when the woman stumbled. "Old people should retire," Sarah said loudly. Emily ran to help the cleaner. Ignoring the laughter, she cleaned the water, picked up the bucket, and held the woman's elbow until she was safe. Henry stood on the landing above, unseen, watching. He saw how the others mocked and how Emily moved without pride. It confused him. He had seen too many faces that pretended kindness for praise or gain. This one did not look like that, but his walls were high and thick. That evening, Emily reached the clinic with bread and tea she had bought from a roadside woman. She sat by Papa Thomas again. He looked a little stronger and even managed a small smile. "You came," he whispered. "I will always come," Emily said. He squeezed her fingers. "You remind me of someone I loved before the world became hard." He did not say my grandson. He did not say Henry. He only watched the girl's face and allowed hope to knock softly on his heart. Outside the clinic, Henry's driver waited in the rain, holding an umbrella and arguing with himself. He knew. He had known since the first glance. But the old man's secret was not his to break. He drove to a junction, then turned back, parked, and sighed. "Sir," he said into the dark of the car, speaking to a memory. "What are you doing here?" Jealousy is a small snake, but its bite spreads. Sarah watched the way Henry's eyes sometimes followed Emily for a second longer now. It angered her. She wanted attention. She wanted power. She wanted a quick promotion, a raise, the soft life she saw on Instagram. So she set a trap. On Friday, petty cash went missing from Mr. Thompson's drawer. It wasn't much, but it was enough to cause noise. Sarah had seen Emily deliver documents to Thompson earlier and quietly slipped 2 notes into Emily's locker when everyone went for lunch. By 3 o'clock, Thompson called for a search. They opened lockers. In Emily's locker, they found the missing notes. A cold silence spread. Emily's lips parted. "Sir, I don't know how—" Thompson's face was tight. "HR now." Sarah folded her arms and made a sad face. "This is painful," she said loudly so people would hear. "I didn't expect this from her." In HR, Mrs. Miller's eyes were tired. "Emily, this does not look good," she said. Emily shook, then held herself still. "Ma, I did not take any money. Someone wants to ruin me." Henry entered without warning. He looked from the notes to Emily. "We have rules for a reason," he said, voice low and hard. "If you are lying, leave now before I call the police." Emily stood. Her shame felt like heat under her skin. Her throat tightened, but she lifted her chin. "I did not steal," she said. "If you like, search my house. I may be poor, but I am not a thief." Henry's face did not change. "Suspend her for a week while we review cameras," he told HR. "If we confirm theft, terminate." Emily stepped out, head spinning. People watched from doorways. Someone hissed. Someone laughed quietly. She walked past them like a ghost and found her way back to the clinic. When Papa Thomas saw her, he knew something was wrong. "Child," he said. Emily knelt, holding the old man's hand with both of hers. Tears finally fell. "They said I stole money," she whispered. "They suspended me." Papa Thomas's eyes sharpened. There was fire in them now. He remembered boardrooms, lies, and traps from another life. He closed his wrinkled fingers around Emily's hand. "Listen to me," he said softly. "Truth walks slowly, but it always reaches home. Keep your head up. Sir, what if they fire me? How will I pay rent? How will Lily eat?" The old man looked at her with a grandfather's fullness. "The same God who gave you the courage to feed me will not shame you," he said. That night, Emily sat by the clinic window, watching rain draw lines on the glass. She felt small and tired. But somewhere under the tiredness, a stubborn light stayed. She was not perfect. She was not strong every minute. But she had not stolen. She would not bow to a lie. In another part of town, Henry watched the camera review on his laptop. He saw Sarah walk near the lockers. The angle was poor, her hand hidden by her body. He saw Emily enter later. He rubbed his forehead. "I need the hallway camera too," he muttered. He paused when the memory of the clinic flashed through his mind. The wet girl running through the rain. The girl now accused of theft. He shook his head. "Don't be foolish," he told himself. "One kind act doesn't prove anything." But the wall on his chest had a new crack. The rain did not stop for 2 days. The city felt like a drum underwater. On Sunday evening, Emily took an umbrella and hurried to the clinic with a small bowl of soup she had begged from her neighbor. The neighbor had said, "Return my bowl, oh," and rolled her eyes. Still she gave. On the road near the usual spot, wind slapped the umbrella sideways. A car swept past and splashed muddy water on Emily's legs. She didn't stop. In the ward, Papa Thomas's cough had eased, and color was returning to his face. When he saw the bowl, he smiled. "The smell alone is healing," he said. Emily fed him slowly, taste by taste. Afterward, he rested, and Emily stepped into the corridor to wash the bowl at a small tap. Her hair was damp. She rubbed her arms for warmth. "Why do you do it?" a voice asked behind her. She turned. Henry stood there, rain on his shoulders, his white shirt dark at the edges. He had come without planning to. He did not even know why his car turned towards the clinic after he left the office. But here he was, watching a girl wash a neighbor's bowl like it was a treasure. Emily blinked. "Sir?" "Why do you care for that man?" he asked. "He is not your family." Emily looked at the tap, then back at him. "Because someone should," she said quietly. "And because one day I may need someone too." Henry studied her face. "We are reviewing the camera," he said. "If you are guilty, kindness won't save you." "If I am guilty, fire me," she answered. "If I am innocent, clear my name." He nodded once and turned to go. Then the lights went out. Darkness swallowed the corridor. Nurses shouted for the generator. A weak cry came from the ward. Emily ran back and found Papa Thomas trying to sit up, struggling for the inhaler on the small table. Emily guided his hand, found the inhaler by touch, placed it in his palm, and counted his breaths. When the old man calmed, Emily wiped his face with the edge of her scarf. Henry watched from the door, the beam from a nurse's small torch cutting through the dark. Something moved in his eyes. An old picture lit up. His grandfather, younger but with the same sharp eyes, once helping him when he had fever as a boy. He shook the memory away like a dog shakes off water, then stepped outside into the rain. The generator came on. Light returned. Papa Thomas looked at Emily with pride and a quiet worry growing under his ribs. The time for truth was coming closer, whether he was ready or not. On Monday, Emily stayed home because of the suspension. She cooked small pasta for Lily, left her a note, and went to the clinic early. The nurse smiled when she arrived with fresh bread. "Young girl, you have a good heart," the nurse said. Emily smiled back. "I am only doing what my mother would want me to do if she were alive." Inside, Papa Thomas sat up brighter than before, a borrowed scarf neat on his neck. They ate together and talked in small pieces. The old man told a short proverb after each pause, like planting small stones across a river so the girl could cross. "Never fear the road that is honest," he said, "even if it is rough." "Thank you, sir," Emily replied. By noon, the corridor filled with sound, fast footsteps, the scent of perfume, a man's impatient voice. Henry walked in with Mrs. Miller. He had not planned it, but the cameras had finally told a clearer story. The hallway lens caught Sarah's shadow and hand movement at the lockers. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough to raise serious doubt. "Ma," he said to the nurse, then stopped when he saw Emily and the old man together. He felt like he had walked into a mirror and seen something true. Emily stood tense. Henry's eyes flicked to Papa Thomas, then back to Emily. He lowered his voice, suddenly unsure of himself. "The camera review suggests you were framed," he said. "We will continue the investigation. For now, your suspension is lifted." Emily's knees weakened with relief. "Thank you, sir." A small smile almost touched Henry's mouth, but it died halfway. He turned to leave, then paused. The old man had been watching him, steady and silent. When Henry faced him, the air seemed to change. For one heartbeat, he saw past the faded shirt and wrinkled skin. He saw a pair of eyes he knew, eyes that had once scolded and blessed him on the same day. He blinked hard, and the picture dissolved. "Good afternoon, old sir," he said, voice rough. "Good afternoon, son," Papa Thomas answered. "Not my grandson, just son, the way elders address younger men." But the word brushed something tender and dangerous. Henry left quickly, chest tight, confusion walking beside him like a person. Outside, he told Mrs. Miller to prepare a note clearing Emily's record while the investigation continued. Back inside, Papa Thomas reached for Emily's hand. His palms were warm now. "You stood," he whispered. "Truth stood with you." Emily smiled through tears. "I almost fell." "The wind is strong," Papa Thomas said, "but your roots are deep." Emily laughed softly and wiped her face. She did not know she had just passed a test written in a language older than paper. She did not know the old man by her side was not only a stranger she had fed, but the grandfather of a man who had power over her daily bread. She did not know the old man's heart was arguing with itself. Keep hiding a little longer, or let the mask fall. The Grand Oak announced a town hall, a staff meeting in the main hall. All shifts present. No excuses. Henry stood on a small platform with the managers. He spoke about waste, about standards, about loyalty. His voice was calm but hard. The workers listened, tired and curious. Then Mr. Thompson stepped up with a box of outstanding staff certificates. He called names. People cheered. Emily stood at the back, hands clasped. She did not expect anything. She only prayed her name would not be called for shame. Sarah's name came first for consistency. She glided forward, smiling like a cat. When she passed Emily, she whispered, "Watch and learn." Chloe got team spirit. Others clapped lazily. Then Thompson cleared his throat. "There is also a matter of behavior," he said. "We discourage lateness and dishonesty." His eyes slid toward Emily. Murmurs rose, but he lifted his hand. "We do not judge until facts are clear," he added. Sarah's smile thinned. She wasn't expecting that line. Henry took the mic again. "Let me be plain," he said. "If you set traps for your colleagues, understand that truth has long legs." His gaze swept the room and held, for a fraction, on Sarah. Her stomach flipped. A man in the crowd shouted, "Boss, what of those who beg by the road and delay work?" Laughter burst. Several pairs of eyes turned to Emily. Someone coughed, anti-charity, under their breath. The laughter grew. Henry's jaw tightened. He hated noisy cruelty. He lifted his hand for silence. "This is a company, not a marketplace for gossip," he said. "If you have time to laugh at people, you have time to improve your output." The hall quieted, but shame had already climbed Emily's neck like heat. She looked at the floor and wished it would open up and swallow her. She felt alone in a sea of bodies. After the meeting, Sarah cornered Chloe near the washroom. "He was looking at me," Sarah hissed. "I need to finish this girl. If she stays, I won't rise." "How?" Chloe asked, uneasy. Sarah's eyes sharpened. "Leave that one for me." "How?" Chloe asked, uneasy. Sarah's eyes sharpened. "Leave that one for me." Emily went to HR to sign a form that cleared her suspension days from pay. Mrs. Miller spoke gently. "Hold on, Emily. I believe you. The camera is helping." Emily nodded, eyes glistening. "Thank you, Ma." That night, Henry could not sleep. He sat at his table with spreadsheets open and saw only a girl washing a neighbor's bowl under a tap. Only an old man's steady eyes in a dim ward. His phone buzzed. A friend sent a message. "Dinner tomorrow. There's a new club full of fine girls." Henry typed, "I'm busy," and dropped the phone. He did not recognize himself anymore. He stood by the window and watched rain trace paths on the glass. Somewhere in the wet city, a truth wrapped itself like a baby in cloth and waited for its own birth. After work one day, Emily didn't go straight to the clinic. She walked to a small church near the bus stop and sat in the last row, the wooden bench hard under her. There were only a few people. A mother with a sleepy child, an old man half dozing, a woman with a headscarf praying under her breath. Emily covered her face with her hands. She did not ask for money or justice. She asked for strength to go on for one more day and for Papa Thomas's breath to stay steady. When she finally reached the clinic, the nurse pressed a brown envelope into her hand. "Anonymous donor," the nurse said with a smile. "Half the bill." Emily opened her mouth, then closed it again. She looked at Papa Thomas, who was watching her with a knowing sadness. The old man did not speak. He did not say the driver from the black SUV had passed earlier with an envelope and quiet instructions. He did not say his heart had shouted when he left. Emily sank to the chair, shaking. "Who would do this for us?" she whispered. "Sometimes," Papa Thomas said gently. "Help comes from hands that do not announce themselves." Emily burst into tears, soft and deep. She laid her head on the old man's lap, careful of the blanket, and wept. The old man stroked her hair, humming an old song of comfort. In another part of the city, Henry stood in his apartment, phone in his hand, staring at the copy of the church's brown envelope receipt on his dining table. He had made the donation anonymously, angry at himself for caring and angrier at a world that made him hide care like a thief hides a coin. He told himself it was just to quiet the noise in his head. He did not fully believe his own lie. Days passed. At the Grand Oak, the air felt heavy. Rumors moved faster than trays. Sarah laughed loudly at nothing, happy to be seen. Chloe stood near her, uneasy but still standing there. Mr. Thompson signed papers with a hard face and did nothing to cool the gossip. Emily kept her eyes on the tables, polishing and setting as if the world outside the napkins did not exist. At lunch, she ate 2 spoonfuls and wrapped the rest for the clinic. When she stood to wash her flask, 2 women blocked her path. "You like acting," one said. "Act now. Cry small. Let us clap." Their voices were sharp and sweet, the way poison sometimes smells like flowers. Emily looked down and said quietly, "Leave me." She walked around them without a word. Her hands shook, but she did not drop the flask. Upstairs, Henry stared at a printed report from IT. The fake account that posted the clinic picture was tied to a device that often logged into the office Wi-Fi during lunch. The logs pointed to Sarah's corner, and 2 other devices close to her group. Camera clips showed the security guard standing near the lockers at odd times. A separate file tracked a leak of staff photos into a WhatsApp group where Thompson had reacted with laughing emojis. It was messy. It was enough. Henry called the head of security, HR, and IT. "We end this properly," he said. "No shouting, no rushing, but it ends." That evening, the kind nurse met Emily at the clinic door with a smile. "He can be discharged soon," she said. "One more test, then rest at home." Emily breathed out. Thank God. She went inside and fed Papa Thomas slowly. He watched her, seeing the fear hiding beneath the smile. "Tomorrow," the old man whispered, "the wind will change." Emily touched his hand. "I hope so." Outside, the sky was dark, like a curtain waiting to be pulled back. Morning brought a message. "All staff town hall at noon. Attendance compulsory." People gossiped. "Maybe they will fire someone," one said. "Maybe they will promote me," Sarah said, adjusting her blouse. Chloe checked her phone again and again. Thompson rehearsed a speech no one asked for. At 10 o'clock, someone new walked into the clinic. Henry's driver. He greeted the nurse, then approached Papa Thomas's bed. "Sir, good morning," he said softly. The old man's eyes sharpened. "My boy," he answered. "Sir," the driver whispered, "Master Henry is doing a staff meeting today. Do you want to go?" Papa Thomas looked at Emily, then back at the driver. "Yes," he said simply. "Wheelchair, please." Emily blinked. "Sir, are you sure? It will be noisy." The old man smiled. "Some truths need a crowd." They reached the Grand Oak just before noon. The guard at the gate frowned at the wheelchair, unsure. He stepped forward, saw Emily pushing the chair, and grinned. "Clinic shifter company?" he sneered. Then he saw the driver and froze. The driver nodded. "Open," he said. The guard stepped aside quickly. Inside the hall, workers gathered in rows. The stage was simple: a table, 2 mics, a projector. Henry stood straight, jaw set. HR and IT flanked him. Mrs. Miller's face was calm but firm. Emily pushed Papa Thomas to the back row and sat beside him. People turned to stare. Whispers started. "Why is that beggar here?" someone muttered. "So she now carries him up and down?" another scoffed. "Shameless." The words floated like flies. Papa Thomas sat quietly, eyes on the stage, hands folded in his lap. Sarah saw them and smiled a satisfied smile. Perfect, she thought. When they finally disgrace Emily today, everyone will see it. Henry stepped to the mic. "Good afternoon," he said. The hall answered in a dull wave. He looked at the rows, then at his notes. "We are here to talk about standards and truth." A soft hush began to spread. He clicked the projector. Camera screenshots appeared. Time-stamped clips of locker corridor. A figure moved near Emily's locker during lunch. The angle was not perfect, but the hairstyle and jacket were familiar. Another clip showed the security guard standing with the master keys, lingering too long, looking around. Another clip showed Sarah and 2 others huddled, phones out, faces bright with gossip. Murmurs rose, heads turned, eyes shifted to Sarah. Henry's voice stayed steady. "We also traced a fake account that posted lies about a staff member's behavior," he said. "The account was created and used from devices that log on from this building during work hours. The devices match 3 staff IDs. Silence grew heavy. Finally, he said, a WhatsApp leak of a private locker photo was encouraged by a supervisor who reacted with mockery instead of stopping the shame. Thompson's face drained. Sarah stood, furious. "This is not proof," she cried. "Anyone can—" Henry lifted a hand. "You will speak after HR reads the findings," he said. Mrs. Miller stood and read, calm and clear, access logs, timestamps, device IDs, witness notes from 2 cleaners, and a short statement from the newspaper seller who had watched Sarah take the clinic picture through the window while pretending to text. The pieces fit. Not perfect, but tight. Henry looked up. "We will conclude in a moment," he said. "First, I want to introduce someone who has something to say." He stepped away from the mic. The driver wheeled Papa Thomas forward, heads tilted, mouths tightened. Some laughed. "Ah, this is turning to drama," someone whispered. The old man rested his hands on his lap and looked out at them. When his voice came, it was soft, but carried. "Good afternoon, children," he said. Something in the way he said it made the hall go still. He did not start with names. He started with a story. "I sit by a road," Papa Thomas said, "because I wanted to know if this city still has a heart. Many people passed me. Some looked away, some laughed. One girl knelt and fed me spoon by spoon and wiped my mouth with her last tissue. She did it again the next day, and again the next." A sound moved through the hall, a small, guilty wind. He turned slightly in the chair and pointed to Emily. "That girl," he said simply. Emily froze. Her hands shook. Her throat tightened. She felt as if the floor had moved. Papa Thomas faced the hall again. "I hid who I was because my grandson has forgotten how to trust since his parents died," he said. "I wanted to see a person who is kind when no one is clapping. I saw it." He paused. Henry stared at him, the last wall in his chest bending. He knew now. He could not pretend any longer. His eyes shone and he looked away quickly. The old man lifted his chin. His voice deepened. "My name is Papa Thomas," he said quietly. "I am the founder of this company. I am the grandfather of Henry." A gasp ran through the room. Heads turned to Henry, then back to him. Everyone had heard stories about the man who started the Grand Oak, the one who had disappeared from public view years ago. "I have watched from the street and from the clinic," Papa Thomas continued. "I have watched some of you mock. I have watched some of you hide lies and throw dirt at a girl who had nothing but still gave." His eyes found Sarah. "You," he said. The word was not loud, but it carried weight. "And you," he said, looking at Chloe. "And you," he added, turning to the guard. "You threw stones with laughter. You put money in a locker and lie in a group. You tried to break a back that was already carrying too much." Chloe broke first. Tears spilled. "I am sorry," she whispered, shaking. "I followed. I was weak." Sarah lifted her chin, angry and afraid. "This is a setup," she said, voice trembling. "Old man or not, you can't just—" Papa Thomas did not raise his voice. "Truth does not need to shout," he said. He looked at Thompson. "And you. When a leader laughs at a lie, he helps it grow." Thompson dropped his eyes. Papa Thomas turned to the hall again. "I did not come to shame," he said. "I came to end a lie and to say this. Kindness is not foolishness. It is a strength." He looked at Henry. Their eyes met and held. A soft line appeared in the old man's face, the line of relief. "Son," he said, voice unsteady now, "can you see?" Henry swallowed, a boy and a man fighting inside him. "I can see," he said low. "I can finally see." The hall was silent. Some people had tears in their eyes. Some stared at the floor. Papa Thomas folded his hands again. "I am finished," he said softly. Henry stepped forward. The room felt different now, like a window had been opened. "HR will issue letters today," he said, voice calm but iron. "Effective immediately, Sarah, Chloe, and the guard are placed on indefinite suspension without pay, pending final disciplinary action. Mr. Thompson is also placed on indefinite suspension for failing to protect staff and for sharing a mocking leak." A ripple ran through the hall. Sarah's mouth opened and closed. "Indefinite?" she cried. "Because of that girl?" "Because of truth," Henry answered. "Security will escort you to clear your desks. There will be no more public ridicule here." Sarah broke into angry tears. "She bewitched all of you," she shouted, pointing at Emily. "She's pretending." "Enough," Mrs. Miller said softly, standing between them. "Leave with dignity." Chloe walked forward on unsteady legs. She stopped by Emily and whispered, "I am sorry." Real remorse sat in her eyes. Emily nodded through tears. "I forgive you," she said. Her voice was small but steady. The guard stared at the floor, shame heavy on his shoulders. Thompson tried to speak and failed. He covered his face with his hand. Henry turned to the hall. For everyone who laughed while this happened, he said, learn from today. We will be better or we will not be here. He set the mic down. The meeting ended with no clapping, only an honest quiet. People began to move. Some went straight to Emily, faces soft with shame. We are sorry, they said. We believed lies. She nodded to each person, eyes wet, chest shaking with a mix of pain and relief. Henry walked toward her but stopped halfway, unsure. Papa Thomas watched them both, a small smile hiding at the corner of his mouth. His plan had not been to embarrass anyone. It had been to open eyes. The eyes were open now. The driver wheeled him back to the rear of the hall. He sat quietly, hands folded, letting them find each other without his voice pushing. Emily turned and saw Henry. They stood facing each other, two people on a road that had finally been cleared of dust. I am sorry, he said first. His voice cracked. I was hard, I was blind, I thought everyone was the same. I let your name carry dirt. I was wrong. Emily's tears fell again. I was afraid, she said, not only of losing my job, but of losing my heart. People can be cruel. I know, he replied. I became cruel to protect myself. Around them, the hall emptied. In the back, Papa Thomas sat quietly, joy pressing warm behind his eyes. His hands trembled a little with relief. They met later in a small office with a window that faced the road. Papa Thomas sat in the corner for a while, then asked the driver to wheel him out and give them a moment. I will be close, he said, smiling. Talk. Henry poured water for Emily and pushed the cup toward her with both hands as if handing her something precious. Please drink, he said. She sipped and wiped her face with the back of her hand. He noticed and winced. I should have protected you that day, he said. I saw you fall and I felt, I don't know, ashamed. Emily placed the cup down. You protected me later, she said. I should have done it earlier, he replied. He took a breath. Emily, when I was younger, I lost my parents and the world became hard. I made a rule, don't trust, don't feel, don't look back. I carried that rule into this office and used it like a cane. She nodded slowly. I made rules too, she said. Work hard. Don't cry in public, help where you can, and if people laugh, walk away. They both smiled. The same tired smile. My grandfather, Henry said, hid to test the world. He also tested me. I failed at first. You passed from the first day. Emily looked down. I was not trying to pass, she said. I was just doing what my mother taught me. She used to say, if you have 2 spoons of rice, share one. Your stomach will not collapse. Henry laughed softly for the first time in a long time. The laugh broke something hard inside him. He grew serious again. I will clear your record publicly, he said. I will add a note of commendation. And if you allow me, I want to know you, not as boss and staff, as people. Emily held his eyes. I am afraid, she said honestly. But I am also grateful. I will be patient, he said. We will go slowly. The door opened. Papa Thomas rolled back in, smiling. Have you finished quarreling? He teased gently. They laughed, the tension lifting. Sir, Emily said, shy and full of wonder. I did not know. I would never have. Papa Thomas reached for her hand. You did not feed me because of who I am, he said. You fed me because of who you are. That is why I am at peace. They talked until the light outside turned gold, about Lily's schooling, about rent, about wounds that still ached, about ways to make the company kinder without making it weak. Henry gave Emily a written letter to take to the landlord, confirming her employment and adding a small housing allowance. It starts today, he said. No more knocking with iron rings. Emily pressed the paper to her chest and cried again, quiet tears of relief. Papa Thomas dabbed his eyes with a handkerchief and laughed softly. You will finish all our tissues, he said. Let me buy more, Henry replied. And they all laughed. Time moved forward like a drumbeat. Rumors died. Work changed. A new notice appeared on the board. 0 tolerance for harassment and lies. Trainings began. The WhatsApp gossip groups went quiet, then kinder. The guard, Sarah, Chloe, and Thompson stayed away on indefinite suspension. HR sent them letters. Some appealed. The evidence held. The company did not joke again with such things. Their faces sometimes appeared at the far edge of the street, watching, angry, ashamed, eyes glaring from the shadows. They were part of the story still, but only as a warning. Emily moved to a small, clean room with Lily. The landlord brought back the spare key he had been holding like a weapon. He even sent a cheap bag of rice in apology. No hard feelings, he muttered, not meeting her eye. Emily smiled politely. Thank you, sir. Papa Thomas returned home and rested. Some days he still sat by the roadside, not as a test, but because he liked the wind there. People greeted him with respect now, not pity. He would smile and tap his knee. Kindness is a seed, he would say. Plant it. Henry and Emily started seeing each other openly, but slowly. They walked past the old spot and talked about fear and faith. He said sorry in many ways. She said, I forgive you, many times. He met Lily properly. Lily liked him but said, don't hurt my sister. Henry nodded like a soldier receiving orders. One evening in front of the restaurant, with Papa Thomas watching from a bench nearby, Henry knelt, simple and quiet, and asked, Emily, will you marry me? Emily covered her mouth and cried. She looked at Papa Thomas, who nodded with happy tears. Yes, she whispered, then louder. Yes. The wedding was not the biggest in the city, but it was honest and beautiful. The church was full. Drums spoke, voices rose in praise. Women wore bright dresses, men shook hands. The nurse from the clinic came in a neat gown. The newspaper seller sat in the second row, smiling to himself. Even the bus conductor who once mocked Emily stood quietly at the back. Emily walked in, with Lily at her side. She held her hand tightly and tried to look like a woman, not a scared girl. But she cried anyway. Henry cried. Papa Thomas cried most of all, a handkerchief trembling in his fingers, his face bright with joy. He sat quietly during the vows, eyes shining. His plan had worked, not to trap, but to reveal, not to embarrass, but to heal. Outside by the gate, a few faces peered and frowned. Sarah, the guard, Thompson, and one of the women who used to laugh. Their eyes were hard, but their shoulders were tired. The happiness inside did not ask them to join, and it did not fear their gaze. It simply existed, strong and clean. When Emily and Henry exchanged rings, the hall seemed to hold its breath. I promise, Henry said, voice steady, to guard your name and your heart. I promise, Emily answered, to hold you to truth and kindness. They kissed. People shouted, drums leaped, children clapped. Papa Thomas laughed like a boy, hands clapping, head thrown back. Later, at the small reception in a decorated hall, Henry stood and lifted the microphone. Before today, he said, I thought love was weakness. I was wrong. It is our strength. This woman taught me that. My grandfather taught me that. This company will live by that. Emily took the mic, shy. Some people mocked me when I begged for leftovers, she said. They called me names. I wanted to hide. But kindness is not foolish. It is a light. If you carry it, some will laugh. Carry it anyway. Lily raised her cup of juice. To my sister, she said proudly, who fed a stranger and found a father. Laughter and clapping filled the hall. Papa Thomas tapped his glass with a spoon and stood with help. My last word, he said gently. A folk tale is not just a story. It is a mirror. If you mock the poor, change. If you hid the truth, open your mouth. If you have only 2 spoons of rice, share one. The earth will remember. The hall was quiet for a moment, the kind of quiet that feels like prayer. Then cheers rose again. Music filled the space. People danced. When the sun went down, lights came on around the restaurant. The air was soft. Emily and Henry stood under the awning where everything had first begun. They held hands and watched Papa Thomas sitting quietly nearby, smiling, satisfied. His eyes were calm. His plan had found its end. And the moral, plain and simple. Do right when no one is watching. Protect the weak. Tell the truth. Mockery is loud, but it does not last. Kindness is quiet, but it changes everything.